Incredible love. Man brings flowers to woman with a hidden scar, unveiling an amazing bet. Jake pushed a stack of essays away, the words blurring together despite the crisp autumn air drifting through the cafe's open window. The warm scent of coffee did little to soothe the unease that coiled tightly in his chest. Each B he scribbled felt like another weight added to the modest expectations that loomed over him, his family's whispers of practicality, the creeping doubt gnawing at the edge of his dream to write. Instead of thrilling moments spent crafting stories, he spent his days imparting knowledge to disinterested teens in a small classroom perched at the edge of Maplewood. The flicker of autumn leaves outside caught his attention, a desperately craved distraction. That's when he noticed her, Lily, in her corner, sketching intently. A deeper beauty lay in her artistic talent, marred subtly by the scar on her wrist, a silent testament to a struggle hidden beneath her reserved demeanor. Intrigued, Jake felt an overwhelming longing to delve deeper, signing his heart to the effort. Each surprise he made, bringing flowers from his grandmother's garden to the cafe, crafting little stories to share with her, filled his soul with a glimmer of hope. But with every moment spent distracted by a growing bond, the shadows of responsibilities crept closer, whispering doubts about his future. Could he continue like this, even as bills piled higher than the stacks of graded essays? The haunting possibility that he might have to choose between his dreams and supporting hers loomed over him. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. But just as their connection deepened, a local art dealer's enticing offer throbbed within the walls of his mind. The thought of Lily rising to success sent spikes of envy through him. What if this fame lured her away? The very notion threatened to unravel the fragile tapestry they had woven together. A creeping despair gripped him as he doubted whether he could truly support her ambition while stifling his own. Amidst this turmoil, he stumbled upon the leaden secret of his mentor. This idolized figure was tangled in a betrayal that linked back to Lily. The very man whose applause Jake sought had wronged her family in ways that cut deep. Rage and guilt twisted within him. Should he confront the man who had crafted his career at the expense of Lily's past? The moral dilemma suffocated him.
Silence would mean preserving glances of respect, while confrontation could bring ruin upon them all. Then it hit him. Another colleague was circling Lily like a hawk, further complicating the fragile hope blossoming between them. Jealousy tightened its grip, and whispers around town about their differences became a chaotic hum in his mind. Could love really bloom amid such a tangled mess? As the day loomed for Lily's art show, Jake's choices became sharper. Should he seek justice for his love, confronting the very foundation of his aspirations? Or step back, letting fear dictate his every move? The tension built, crackling in the air like a brewing storm, as Lily prepared to chase her dreams, standing at the edge of everything, with Jake watching, caught between loyalty and ambition. An unanswered question lingered in the wind. Could their love withstand the scars of betrayal, or was it a fight they weren't equipped to win? Jake's fingers drummed against the tabletop, a slow rhythm of anxiety that mirrored the chaos in his mind. The thought of Lily's art show loomed larger than life, a bright beacon, yet one shrouded in uncertainty. He could feel the pulse of the cafe, the hum of conversation spiraling around him as he waded through his internal struggle. Would he let the thrill of pursuing justice outweigh the steady loyalty he felt toward Lily? Confronting his mentor was the less common path. That path bore thorns, potentially endangering the very love he cherished. What if revealing the past would only sever the fragile ties they formed? He considered this with a gnawing sense of despair, realizing that the very foundation of his ambition was built on a betrayal he hadn't anticipated. In that moment, he made a decision that shocked him. His heart raced at the very thought. He would confront his mentor. As daunting as that seemed, it was the only way to lay the truth bare, to ensure that neither Lily nor her family would remain shackled by the sins of his mentor's past. Stripped of pretense, the surroundings faded. As determination swelled within him, he had to choose a path of honesty, even if it shattered the remnants of a past that connected him to his career. As he left the cafe, the crisp air filled his lungs, but the relief of decision was lost among the lingering doubts. What if, in seeking justice, he lost her? The paradox only added weight to his footsteps. In the days that followed, Jake's focus split between preparing for the inevitable confrontation and bolstering Lily's confidence for her show. Every time he watched her pour her heart into her artwork, the clarity of his mission sharpened. He began to see Lily not just as a beautiful soul with a hidden scar, but as a pillar of talent standing resiliently against the tide of expectations. Yet as her art pieces were unveiled for their public exposure, self-doubt began to creep in.
Was he capable of standing by her side as she flourished while he remained dormant in his own professional life? In gratitude, he would often quietly watch her paint, storing moments of her creative freedom as if they were affirmations he desperately needed. His affection deepened under the weight of admiration, but alongside it lingered the nagging question of how his own dreams measured up. The gods of irony were having their fun, it seemed. With her success looming just within reach, Jake could feel that jealousy inching back into his consciousness, fanning the flames of the moral dilemma he had yet to resolve. Could he genuinely support her without feeling resentment? Each compliment he bestowed upon her felt laced with an unvoiced question. Was it enough? The day before her show, Jake found himself in the depths of a quiet panic. Personal ambition mingled with heartfelt love, complicating the simple notion of celebration. As he stared at the blank page of his notebook, artistically mimicking the canvases Lily had filled with color and life, he realized he needed to write, not just the stories in his head, but an acceptance of his reality. The words flowed like ink, shedding the constraints he had authored for himself. Then there came a light tap at his door, pulling him from his reverie. It was Lily, her smile radiant with the glow of someone on the verge of a breakthrough. But as he looked into her eyes, a chilling thought struck him like lightning. What if his impending confrontation twisted everything he was risking? What if, in defending her past, he jeopardized their future? In that moment of uncertainty, Jake knew the time had come to face the haunting repercussions of hidden truths, both for him and for her. Would he heed the call of love enough to redefine his contributions to her world, or would he let betrayal guide his decisions, unraveling them both in the process? Jake stood alone in his dimly lit apartment, the weight of his decision feeling heavier than ever. The faint glow from a nearby street lamp filtered through the window, casting shadows that danced against the walls, almost mocking the turmoil whirling within him. He glanced at the clock, painfully aware that time was slipping away, urgency clawing at his insides as the hour of Lily's art show approached. He pulled out his notebook, the pages now crammed with half-formed thoughts and emotional rants, a reflection of the anxiety he could no longer suppress. Each line he wrote revealed a fragment of the conflict he faced, the conflicting pulls of loyalty to Lily and the moral imperative to uncover the truth about his mentor. The pen felt heavy in his grip as he pressed it to the paper, trying to channel his thoughts through ink. But each attempt felt inadequate, as if the words themselves were too afraid to confront what lay ahead.
What if this confrontation didn't just gear him for personal growth, but ultimately dismantled the fragile empire of trust he had built with Lily? The thought sent shivers of uncertainty through him. He had to confront his mentor, but what would he gain? Would revealing the past to Lily lead to clarity or to heartbreak? Determination surged through him, underscoring the necessity of bravery. He had witnessed Lily brave the canvas, pouring her soul into each stroke. Painting was her escape, her way of reclaiming her past, just as he was now seeking to confront his. Perhaps that shared resilience was the bond that could unearth their greatest strengths, if only he could muster the same courage she displayed. Suddenly, an idea bloomed within him, a flicker of hope igniting the shadows of doubt. If he were to bring truth to light, he would not only confront his mentor, but frame the conversation as a catalyst for change. Jake envisioned their meeting. He would face his mentor, armed not just with accusations, but with a desire for transparency. He sought understanding, not revenge. What if he could communicate to his mentor how Lily's future depended on resolving the chaos of the past? Jake took a breath, his resolve solidified. He needed to write not only for himself, but as a prelude to the pivotal conversation ahead. Suddenly energized, he filled the page with a draft. He outlined his intentions for the confrontation, taking care to keep his emotions in check. Each sentence echoed louder than the last, snapping into focus the commitment he felt toward truth, justice, and ultimately to Lily. As the words flowed, his mind shifted toward Lily again, the way her eyes sparkled when she spoke about her art, the way she transformed her pain into beauty. It was inspiring. Their connection went deeper than admiration. They were kindred spirits struggling to transcend their scars. It struck him that perhaps his journey wasn't solely about confronting the past, but also about embracing the present and the potential for the future. Jake paused, allowing the thought to sink in. Confrontation could catalyze his own journey toward personal growth too. If he stood for them both, for the truth, he risked selfish desires for the sake of integrity. That perspective subtly altered his appreciation for Lily's art, revealing allied vulnerabilities that he had previously overlooked. He felt strong as he wrote down the final sentences, transformed by clarity.
But just as the weight of determination settled in, a knock at the door roused him from his euphoria. A suffocating wave of apprehension crashed over him. He had debated facing moments like these, yet now he was confronted with the imminent culmination of his decisions. Was it Lily? Did she know his plans? Was she prepared to stand by him when truth finally came crashing down? The question hung unsupported in the air as he hesitated, one hand resting on the doorknob, while his mind churned with anticipation.
No sooner than he willed it, he opened the door, heart racing, prepared to face whatever came next. The hall was empty. Yet, as he turned to retreat, a familiar voice echoed behind him. "Jake, we need to talk." His heart dropped at the sound. The time for choices had come. Jake turned slowly, the familiarity of the voice both a comfort and a trigger of anxiety. In the dim light of the hallway, Lily stood with concern etched across her features. Jake's body temperature rose. The weight of her presence compounded the very tension he had been wrestling with in solitude. "We need to talk," she repeated, her voice steadier this time, cutting through the swirl of confusion that clouded his thoughts. Instinctively, Jake stepped aside, inviting her in, but the momentum of his own uncertainty held him back. "Yeah, I figured," he managed, his voice hoarse. The door clicked shut behind her as she entered, and the space between them felt electric with unspoken words. It was almost as if this moment had been predestined, a culmination of everything hovering like a storm above their heads. "Is everything okay?" she asked, concern dancing on her lips. He had always admired that about her, the way she cared deeply, unearthing layers beneath superficial interactions. But today, that empathy felt like a live wire that could spark either an explosion or a revelation. Jake hesitated, weighing his response carefully. "I've been thinking a lot about everything." The panic began to rise again, but he focused on the solidness of the moment. He sensed he could either retreat into silence or, for once, lay his truths bare. His mind raced with plans, strategies. The outline of the confrontation with his mentor loomed like a specter in the back of his mind. "I've been feeling a lot too," she replied, her voice swallowing the distance that had grown between them. "The show is tomorrow, but I don't think I can go. I feel like I'm hiding too much." The confession spilled from her, raw and unguarded, revealing a vulnerability Jake had not anticipated. Something tangible he could grasp, something he needed to cherish if he wanted to nurture the bond they shared. Her admission was an unexpected gift, a signal that perhaps she was ready to share her pain, just as he sought to unveil his own truths. "What do you mean?" he asked gently, his intention shifting toward creating a safe space. He realized he didn't just want to expose his fears, he wanted to support her in confronting her own. She sighed, folding her arms tightly around herself, the weight of the moment heavy on her shoulders. "I've never really talked about my past, Jake, not even with you, and I don't think I can keep pretending like it doesn't exist. The art, it's my escape, but the truth is there's something dark I've carried with me." Her words mirrored the internal battle he waged with himself. "Lily," he breathed, "you can tell me. I'm here for you." Jake felt a shift within him. This wasn't just another moment to navigate on his own, but a shared experience he never anticipated. Strength swelled in him at the thought that, as she opened up, he would too. He imagined them as warriors, brandishing their swords of truth against the dragons of their pasts. But a flicker of doubt cut through him. Was he ready for the full weight of her truth? Would it upend the fragile equilibrium they had established? As he weighed the possibilities, he knew he needed to break the silence of his own heart. "Lily, I have something I need to tell you as well. It's about my mentor and how it might impact us," he said, voice quivering under the tension. Her eyes widened, capturing the gravity of his admission. She took a step closer, comfort and fear intermingling in her expression. "Jake, what do you mean? Is it about tomorrow?" He nodded, aware that his next words could unravel everything. The desire to protect her, to shield her from the cacophony of his confrontation, warred with the necessity of honesty. In this moment, vulnerability became both a weapon and shield. "I can't hold back anymore. We're at a crossroads, and it's time we both face the shadows alongside our art," he spoke, his voice steadying. "Together." As he awaited her response, the world outside continued its march, indifferent to the revelations poised to unfold within these walls. Would their combined strength transform pain into resilience, or identify fractures they couldn't mend? But Lily's silence thickened the air, pushing him to question if they were truly ready to embark on this journey together. What remained to be seen was whether this shared exploration would either solidify their bond or fracture it irreparably in the face of upheaval. "What have you discovered about him?" she finally whispered, her eyes locking onto his, filled with both apprehension and the courage to confront what lay hidden beneath their lives. The moment had arrived,
the air crackling with potential and dread, as Jake prepared to confront not just his mentor, but the intricacies of his destinies entwined with Lily's. Would the truth lead them closer, or could it unravel the very fabric of their existence? In that pivotal silence, as Jake braced himself for a revelation that could change everything, he realized that this was the moment where true transformation began, the moment to face whatever awaited him on the other side. As Jake stood there, the weight of his revelation pressing heavily on his chest, he felt as if time itself were stretching taut, anticipating the next move. Lily's gaze bore into him, and he could see the kaleidoscope of emotions playing behind her eyes. Fear, hope, uncertainty. It was a fragile intersection of their realities, both brimming with the potential for ruin or redemption.
I've come to understand that my mentor has constructed an illusion, and I've bought into it for far too long, Jake finally said, forcing the words out against the tide of his rising fear. He's not who I thought he was, and I need to talk to him about it. It could change everything for me, my career, my art, my future, and us. Lily's expression shifted, processing what he laid before her like a fragile deck of cards. But why now? What makes you believe you can confront him? What if it backfires? Her concern was rooted in her protective instincts, the same ones that had pushed her to share her own burdens. I can't let his shadow loom over me anymore. I've spent years letting doubt dictate my choices. It's time to reclaim my voice, Jake replied, each word a puzzle piece snapping into place, building a framework of courage he hadn't known he possessed. As he articulated his feelings, he could feel a shifting force within him, a surge of determination igniting the embers of self-worth that had flickered in the dark corners of his mind for too long. This self-realization was the catalyst he needed to break free from the invisible chains that had held him captive. For the first time, confronting his mentor didn't frighten him, but exhilarated him. What about me? Lily's voice had softened, the urgency intertwining with an undercurrent of vulnerability. You are prepared to walk this path of confrontation, but what if it changes everything between us? Taking a step toward her, Jake felt the gravity of her question sink deep. We're standing at a divide, Lily, but if we don't face these shadows, we're choosing to remain stagnant, pretending, hiding. I don't want to simply exist anymore. I want to thrive, and I want the same for you. I want to know who you are, dark past and all. Their gaze held the intensity of a promise, but the past wasn't easily shed. Jake sensed the barriers that divided them, fragile yet formidable, shaped by experiences they had both buried beneath layers of artifice. Tomorrow is my chance to stand in the light, Jake, but it's also the same moment I've been terrified of, she admitted, her voice trembling. I've been paralyzed by the thought of what my truth could do to my art, to my spirit, to you. Meeting her vulnerability head-on, Jake spoke with the resonance of everything he had discovered within himself. Take that first step, Lily. Share your scars. Show the world the beauty of what you've overcome. Art is an expression of truth, and in that authenticity, you'll find freedom. The world deserves to witness it, and so do we. Lily searched his face, taking in the sincerity flickering in his eyes. The tension between them began to soften with the weight of shared understanding, drawing them closer, but also deeper into their entangled complexities. I'll try, she breathed, a glimmer of resolve igniting within her, but only if you promise to stand firm in your own confrontation. We can't pretend with each other any longer. As the words hung in the air, a mixture of fear and exhilaration surged through Jake. They were on the verge of unearthing not just personal truths, but the purest essence of their connection. With an almost childlike anticipation, he felt the brink of discovery expanding before them, a chasm filled with both uncertainty and promise. We will face them together, he affirmed, but he could not ignore the nagging doubt lurking within him. What if confronting his mentor revealed something about himself he wasn't ready to accept? Before he could voice those concerns, a quick knock at the door startled them both. The sudden intrusion shattered the moment like glass, spilling the emotions they had woven together onto the floor. What now? Jake muttered, instinctively stepping toward the entrance, unease creeping up his spine. As he opened the door, Jake found himself face to face with an unexpected visitor, the very man he had vowed to confront. Time seemed to pause as he gaped, recognizing the intricate ramifications of this moment. The stakes had just raised again, testing the resolve that had begun to strengthen between him and Lily. Would he grasp this opportunity, or would fear compel him to retreat at the last second? The answer loomed before him, shadowed, and he would take the step into unknown territory, ready or not. Jake stood at the threshold,
heart racing, his breath hitching in his throat as he locked eyes with his mentor, the very man who had been both his guiding light and unseen puppeteer. The air hung densely with unspoken words, tension rising like a tide threatening to swallow him whole. "Jacob," his mentor intoned, his voice smooth yet laced with an edge that made Jake's stomach churn. It took everything in Jake not to recoil from the false warmth in his mentor's expression. Instead, he straightened his shoulders, feeling the storm of emotions inside him, fear, resentment, and insatiable desire for change. This was it. He had to harness that surge of determination that had ignited moments ago. "Actually, we need to talk," Jake stated, fighting to keep his voice steady, the gravity of the words weighing down on him. His mentor raised an eyebrow, amusement mingling with curiosity. "Talk? About what exactly, my dear boy?" Jake forced himself to advance further into the room, leaving the threshold behind, asserting his presence. "About the false narrative you've built, one that I've unwittingly followed for years. It's time to clear the air, for both of us." For a split second, Jake saw a flicker of surprise on the older man's face, but it was quickly masked by a practiced facade. "I'm afraid I don't understand," he said, tilting his head slightly, a mockingly concerned look plastered over his features. Jake's heart thudded in his chest at the challenge, but instead of retreating into doubt, he pressed on.
"You've always told me to strive for authenticity, to infuse my work with truth. But what about your own truth? You've created this illusion of greatness while stifling mine. I'm tired of it." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Jake could see the wheels turning in his mentor's mind, the gears of manipulation grinding together. Yet he had stepped into this moment, no longer shackled by the expectations that had kept him passive for so long. His mentor's expression hardened into something resembling anger. "You misunderstand the path I've laid before you, Jake. It was meant to guide you, to shape you into someone capable. You may find that casting aside my guidance comes with consequences." Consequences. Those words hung ominously in the air, but they no longer terrified Jake. They sparked a fire within him. "Perhaps I need to face those consequences," he said defiantly. "You may have held the reins for too long, but I am ready to navigate my own course now." In that moment, something shifted. The familiar weight of Jake's self-doubt began to lift. He realized he was no longer the boy who sought approval. He was asserting his identity. He could feel an awakening inside him, a powerful inkling that this confrontation was not just about separation from his mentor, but about forging himself anew as an artist and as a man. However, just as empowerment seeped into his bones, he sensed a raw vulnerability within himself, a fear that the future might not unfold as he envisioned. Yet he clung to the clarity of his intentions, reframing what had once been a debilitating fear into an opportunity for growth. Lily, he thought momentarily, picturing her courage in confronting her past illusions. That anchored him, a reminder that he was not alone in this transformative journey. And there it was, the opportunity for self-definition nestled in the confrontation with his outdated beliefs. With a steady exhale, Jake straightened, faced his mentor squarely, and narrowed his gaze. "I will no longer be defined by your standards. I will find my own path, even if it means falling down along the way." The mentor's eyes glimmered ominously, caught in the crossfire of Jake's resolve. "Be careful, Jacob. The world isn't so forgiving, especially when you choose to walk unaccompanied." Jake smiled inwardly at the looming threat, recognizing it for what it was, a chance to embrace his strategy on this new journey. He was already stepping away from the comfort of the past, hands fumbling through the shadows, eager to scatter the remnants of doubt. Just as he felt he'd solidified his footing, the door abruptly swung open again. A different figure stepped in, a young woman with a vibrant presence that instantly filled the room with a dynamic energy. Jake's heart skipped. This was no random occurrence. He recognized her from past shows, a kindred spirit in her artistry.
She was here, standing boldly at the crossroads of emotional tumult, and suddenly everything felt even more destabilized. Was this chance arrival a distraction, or was it another transformative moment waiting to unfold? Jake felt the pull demanding his attention, the unpredictability setting off another thrilling round of apprehension and determination inside him. In the heart of confrontation, he wondered quietly,
What other truths lay unfurled in his life, ready to emerge from the shadows? The whispers of opportunity fluttered near, tantalizingly close, as he waited for her to speak. Would her presence shift the course of his confrontation? Jake stood there, grappling with the unexpected stirrings within. The arrival of the young woman, vibrant and confident, felt like a jolt of electricity. It was as if she embodied the authenticity he longed for but had only started to uncover in himself. "Jake," she said, her tone dismissing the tension that had filled the room moments before. "I heard you were here. I wanted to talk." Her presence was magnetic, drawing him away from the heavy atmosphere with a flicker of anticipation. His mentor, casting a wary glance towards her, tensed ever so slightly. Jake noticed the older man's discomfort, a flicker of control threatened by the potential of new connections. "What are you doing here?" the mentor asked, his voice a calculated calm, trying to regain dominance. "Just visiting," she replied, looking unfazed. "I feel like we all need to push the boundaries sometimes." Her eyes met Jake's, and in them he saw a reflection of the changes he sought: bravery, boldness, the potential for something real. Jake felt a swell of admiration. In that moment, the tension shifted again, igniting his sense of purpose further. "You're right," he said, turning from his mentor back to her. "Boundaries are meant to be tested. We can't grow without stepping outside what's comfortable." His words seemed to resonate, not just with her, but within himself. As he spoke, the realization hit him. The moment was his. The power of confrontation with his mentor had opened a door not only towards his own liberation, but had also invited a dialogue with someone who understood the journey of self-discovery. "You get it," the young woman said, nodding as if recognizing him for the first time. Her presence felt charged, aflame with possibilities. "I'm Elena, by the way." She extended her hand, and Jake grasped it firmly, a gesture symbolizing both connection and solidarity. "Jake," he replied, a bit stunned at this new direction his life was taking. Elena's smile spread wide, brightening the space between them. "I've watched you struggle under the weight of someone else's expectations. It's suffocating, isn't it?" He couldn't help but chuckle, the tension from moments prior dissolving slightly. "It is, but now I realize it's my turn to step forward."
Suddenly, they were interrupted by his mentor clearing his throat, his voice now saturated with annoyance. "This isn't a social gathering. Jake, we were discussing your future, the potential risks involved in leaving behind the guidance I've provided." Jake turned back to his mentor, emboldened by Elena's presence. "I understand the risks, but I am willing to take them. My future is mine to define, not yours to dictate." Elena nodded earnestly, feedback sparking between them. With her, he felt a surge of validation, a reminder that his visions and aspirations mattered. It wasn't just about breaking away from his mentor, but about shaping his own narrative, embracing self-authenticity, and letting the world see the artist he could truly be. His mentor narrowed his eyes, frustration seeping into the folds of his usually composed demeanor. "You may find that the world has a way of punishing those who step out of line." "But what if stepping out of line is precisely where I need to be?" Jake countered, actively dismissing the old fears that had previously haunted him. The realization solidified his stance. The risks associated with his willingness to evolve no longer felt like threats, they were simply markers on the path ahead. Elena squeezed Jake's hand, anchoring him amid the verbal scuffle. "You'll need allies, people who encourage you, who challenge you, but mostly who free you." As they stood side by side, the implication of her words igniting a sense of partnership, Jake realized this moment wasn't just the end of a chapter with his mentor, but the beginning of something powerful, a deeper exploration of who he could become, shaped by both difficulty and newfound alliances. His mentor's voice sliced through the moment again. "Remember, Jake, every choice has consequences." Jake glanced at Elena, feeling a resounding ache of determination, leaning into the pull of uncertainty and possibility. "I'm ready to face them." What would it mean to dive deeper, and what challenges awaited? With the door to oral confrontation crackling open, Jake's journey was far from over, each moment holding tension layered with promise. The very essence of his future shimmered just beyond consequence, real and inviting. As he prepared to embrace whatever came next, the phrase hung tantalizingly in the air. What awaited him on the other side of fear and unknown potential? Just then, the atmosphere thrummed with energy, filling him with questions that ignited his resolve. In the quiet aftermath of the encounter, Jake felt a giddy rush wash over him. The energy lingering in the air acted as a catalyst, awakening ambitions that had long lain dormant within him. Standing next to Elena, he began to envision a future unshackled from someone else's narrative.
The weight he had carried for years felt lighter, almost ephemeral, and in that moment,
Far from the looming uncertainty his mentor had presented, he cautiously entertained the idea of boldly stepping into his own light. "What now?" he mused, his voice barely above a whisper, almost as if admitting the question aloud would make it concrete. He turned to Elena, who was studying him with an intensity that both unnerved and excited him. "We explore," she said simply, her enthusiasm infectious. "Let's find the edges of your comfort zone and push past them. Growth happens outside the security blanket of familiarity." Jake chuckled at the metaphor, feeling the truth of it resonate deeply. The time he spent entangled in routines dictated by his mentor, endlessly towing the line of expected behavior, suddenly felt like a cage from which he was only just beginning to escape. "Okay," he replied, determination solidifying in his chest. "What do you suggest?" Elena smiled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "First, we need to put your creativity to the test. Start small. How about we set an objective for you? Everyone has something they've wanted to do but felt too scared to try. What's yours?" Jake considered it, the wheels in his mind spinning. His passion had always been art, but even that had been molded by the heavy hands of external influence. "I want to create a piece that tells my story, a blend of where I've been and where I aspire to go," he finally said, the words spilling from his lips almost as if they were thoughts he'd never articulated before. "Then let's do it," Elena encouraged. "Let's find a space for you to create freely, away from judgment." The prospect felt thrilling yet daunting. Jake's heartbeat quickened at the thought of unveiling his vulnerabilities on canvas. "What about the logistics? Finding a studio, materials? It all seems a bit overwhelming." "Then we break it down, just one piece at a time," she replied, as if reading his mind. "Find a space, start with where you feel comfortable. Then we can explore galleries, or even just a quiet spot in the park. Art doesn't need a formal setting. Inspiration is everywhere." The rhythm of her confidence began to sync with his own pulse, a momentum forward, a promise blooming between them. Envisioning the painting in his mind felt liberating. He embraced that freedom, even if it felt scary. It dawned on him that each stroke on the canvas could signify both a step towards self-acceptance and a journey of rediscovery. But just as hope ignited, doubt slipped in. "Will it really matter?" he questioned, an undercurrent of anxiety tethering him. "What if it's not good enough or reveals too much? Good enough is only a construct. What matters is that it's honest and it's you. And who knows, others might connect with your honesty." The sincerity in Elena's words lifted his spirits.
She had a way of peeling back the layers of self-doubt, and for the first time, Jake felt seen, not just as a student or a protege, but as an artist. With every passing minute, he felt like new brushes were being handed to him, tools of transformation. The resolve burgeoning within him was stirring something deep. What would it mean to share himself truly, sans the protective shells he'd always relied on? As they left the mentor's office, Elaine guided him with a certainty that felt new to them both. "And remember," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "we're not just carving out space for art, we are redefining who you are." Staring ahead, Jake felt an intoxicating mix of anxiety and excitement. He knew that his journey was not merely about creativity, but about confronting the deeper scars left by years of suppression and expectation. The path ahead shimmered brightly, yet was fraught with uncertainty. What lay ahead was an expedition into the untamed wilderness of his identity, each brushstroke inviting him to question, to dive deeper, to confront the all-consuming fear that had long held him captive. With an exhilarated breath, Jake whispered to himself, "Let's see where this leads." But was he truly prepared to face the darkness that sometimes loomed at the edges of light? The moment shared with Elena felt like just the beginning. The real tests awaited, and they were not yet clear. What haunted corners of his past would emerge as he began to paint his truth? Would he find the strength to confront them head-on? In the allure of upcoming revelations, anticipation began to weave silently through the threads of his mind, tethering his fate to the canvas yet unwritten. He could feel the static energy surging upward from the floor, mingling with his trepidation. Where would he begin?
He grabbed a brush, its bristles stiff yet inviting, and plunged it into a deep cerulean blue. The first stroke felt like an act of defiance against the self-inflicted censorship he'd enforced for so long. With each layer of paint, the colors blended, danced, and coalesced into forms he had not anticipated. Abstract shapes emerged as reflections of his memories, both the joyful and the sorrowful, surfacing like long-buried treasures. As he painted, he let the rhythm of his emotions guide him. The pieces of his past spilled out like secrets freed from confinement. His mind wandered as he dabbed at the canvas, recollections converging on him. The bullying comments about his artistic ambitions, the late nights spent sketching under a blanket of shame, the moments spent unsure of his worth. But amidst those reflections, he felt the flicker of resilience and new resolve igniting. "Why are you afraid to reveal your scars?" a voice within challenged him, as he added bold strokes of red, representing his pain and intensity. "What if exposing them makes me vulnerable?" he grappled back, hesitating briefly as he watched the colors swirl together into a vivid whirlpool. Yet he recognized that vulnerability was a strength. It illuminated truths and fostered connections. He abruptly dipped his brush into black paint, furrowing his brow at the starkness it would introduce. The darkness captured raw feelings of loss, but it simultaneously set the stage for brighter hues to emerge. Hours melted away as he immersed himself in the act of creation. Each time he hesitated, convinced he was bordering on chaos, a glance at the evolving piece served as a reminder of the liberation painting afforded him. This wasn't just art, it was a manifesto of self-discovery, a testament to unearthing hidden parts of himself he never acknowledged. As fatigue settled into his bones, he stepped back to observe his work. It was unrefined and chaotic, yet undeniably him. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. The jumble of colors represented turbulence, but also growth. It was a declaration that he was willing to confront the complexities of his identity, imperfections and all. A sudden knock at the door shattered his reverie. Startled, he turned toward it, a sense of dread curling around his stomach. Who would come now? This time was sacred. He was vulnerable, tapping into the very essence of his being. With measured steps, he approached the door. As he opened it, he was met not with judgment, but with Elena's warm smile, an anchor amidst the upheaval he had dared to create. "I couldn't resist," she said, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "I thought you might need a touch of beauty today." The moment felt suspended, electrified with possibility. Would he allow her to see the rawness of what he had painted? Would he let her witness the unfiltered parts of himself?
In this threshold of revelation, Jake found himself at another pivotal crossroads. This time, he could open the door not just to share his art, but also to share his truth. Would he embrace the connection waiting on the other side? And more importantly, would he take the risk of sharing the canvas of his soul with someone else? With a trembling voice, he gestured toward the living room. "Would you like to see what I've created?" The question hung in the air, fraught with the weight of 100 unspoken fears, yet pulsing with the promise of authenticity. What would happen when she stepped inside, when the worlds of his private struggle and their budding connection collided? Jake stood at the threshold, uncertainty coursing through him as he processed the weight of the moment. He felt the energy shift, and he could sense that this invitation wasn't merely an act of sharing his artwork. It was a pivotal point in the journey of his newfound self. "Absolutely," Elena replied, stepping inside with curiosity reflecting in her eyes, her presence both grounding and exhilarating. As she entered his space, Jake felt a blend of gratitude and anxiety. Here was someone who valued the sincerity he had fought so hard to uncover. The fear of judgment lingered in the air, but the thrill of authenticity took precedence. As he guided her to the living room, he caught a glimpse of his chaotic canvas standing boldly against the wall. The vibrant colors flickered towards him, an unfiltered manifestation of emotion intertwined with honesty. "What an incredible setup you have here," Elena admired, her gaze sweeping across the remnants of canvases and brushes scattered about. Then her attention settled on the central piece, the epitome of his struggle to reshape his identity through art. "You've really gone for it," she said, her expression shifting to one of admiration as she approached the painting. "It's so raw and beautiful at the same time." Jake stood beside her, heart pounding in his chest as she scrutinized each brushstroke from close range. He felt exposed and vulnerable. This canvas was his truth laid bare. "It's my story," he finally admitted bravely, leaning into this act of transparency. Elena turned to him, a knowing understanding in her gaze. "That's powerful, Jake. You didn't just create art. You created a connection between who you were and who you choose to be." In that moment, an immense wave of affirmation washed over him. The act of sharing stirred a newfound confidence. The insecurities that had previously haunted him began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of belonging that blossomed in his chest. "Can I share something with you?" Elena asked softly, breaking the silence. He nodded, inviting the authenticity to flow between them.
"I once struggled with the need to fit into everyone's expectations too," she revealed, her vulnerability painting a portrait of her own journey. "I veered away from expressing myself honestly and let fear take control. But now, the more I create, the more I embrace my scars and let them be part of my narrative." Jake processed her words, feeling a thread of connection weave itself into the space between them. "It's liberating to finally choose to show your truth, isn't it?" he responded. "Absolutely," she affirmed, her voice a gentle echo of his own realizations. "And in doing so, you empower not only yourself, but others too. Your art can resonate deeply with people who are wrestling with their own truths." Her words unlocked something within Jake, illuminating his vision for what his art could achieve. The realization hit him. He no longer needed validation, but rather meant to inspire others through his journey. "So, about the show," he transitioned, taking a risk by bringing his thoughts fully into the light. "I'm ready to share this, my whole story, with everyone. I want my voice to be part of that gallery. As frightening as it is, the fear of not doing it feels worse." Elena's face lit up with a proud smile. "I'd be honored to stand by your side through it all. You have something significant to offer, and your honesty will resonate beyond what you can even imagine." As they exchanged this promise, Jake felt the final pieces of his self-doubt lift, replaced by an empowering conviction. Facing his mentor had been monumental, but this invitation to unveil his truth, layered with companionship, sealed his sense of purpose. In this intertwining journey of creation and connection, Jake felt a vision form, clearer than ever before. The fear that once loomed over him shrank in the presence of shared dreams and mutual support. He would chronicle his journey through his art, showcasing not just the vibrant colors, but the contours of the scars that made him who he was. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow throughout the room, Jake felt ready. Ready to face the art show, ready to confront the reactions of others, and most importantly, ready to embrace the magnificent uncertainty of unveiling not just a painting, but the authentic self he had painstakingly uncovered. With Elena by his side, everything felt possible. His heart surged with gratitude as he breathed deeply, his spirit unshackling from paralyzing self-confrontation. Confidence burgeoned within him, illuminating the path ahead. In this journey of revelation, they had shared their vulnerabilities, and now they would forge a beautiful future, molded from truth, connection, and personal artistry. At this moment, Jake conquered a pivotal transformation. He had his fears in perspective, created art that represented his truth, and found resonance in both himself and in another.
In this empowerment, his world felt boundless. He was ready to step into the light of his truth, unafraid. Now was the moment to continue their shared journey of discovery, to celebrate each other's growth, and to welcome the world with arms wide open. Don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support this powerful connection. Comment your thoughts and reactions about Jake's journey and share your theories about what's next. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this triumphant conclusion. You need to show your support for stories of personal overcoming that truly matter.